My name is Sebastian Thrun. I've been a lifelong student. I learn something new every single day.
Sebastian, I was hoping you can give us the kind of too long didn't read list of amazing things that you've started or built, just to help us set the stage.
Waymo, Google Brain. I built flying cars in Kitty Hawk. I built a global education company called Udacity. And also with many failures like GoogleX.
Very cool, very cool. Professionally, I think your starting point was robotics?
Yes, and AI.
Okay. How did that happen?
As a student, I was super fascinated by intelligence. I studied philosophy, biology, medicine, but then eventually computer science, because in AI, you could actually build something and understand every single bit of it. So robots attracted my attention and I started building robots.
So this is like mid-90s?
This is, unfortunately mid-90s.
What were robots like in the 90s?
In the 90s, robots were mostly in research labs and they mostly didn't move. So for every experiment of 1 minute of robot motion, you spend 1 hour of robot fixing in the background.
What were the technical challenges back then?
There was just no good AI and there were
Okay.
no good software interfaces. So even making a digital camera work would take half a year of hard fixing work.
So robotics, at some point you took a left turn into education.
Well, first I became a professor at Carnegie Mellon and Stanford. That's obviously education, but you're referring to something else here, which is 2011, I was teaching a Stanford class and wanted to put it online. So we created a website for the class and sent one email to a few friends. And within about 6 weeks, 160,000 people had signed up from 195 countries.
Oh, wow.
So I taught a class to 160,000 people. I could barely cross the street without someone saying, "Hey, professor, I know you from class." And then this class, at some point, 40,000 people fell behind in the homework assignments. So I got 40,000 personalized excuse emails, which you could never read.
Are you serious?
And eventually 23,000 people finished it. And then it was amazing. It's like a stadium full of people, right? And then I taught the same class on Stanford's campus. It was a graduate level class. And I gave them the same exams and so on, so I could compare them. And I found out that the top 412 finishers were not at Stanford. They
Wow.
were actually outside Stanford. They were in Afghanistan. They were in Iraq. They were in South America. They were 10 years old. They were 85 years old. All kind of people you wouldn't find at Stanford. Then it dawned on me that Stanford is so insular. It's a tremendously amazing university, and you attended it. But it's very limited in its reach.
Yeah.
If you could just open the floodgates to the entire world, you could have like 100,000 times the impact they have on campus.
So we have the tech now in terms of like access to education everywhere, but it seems like we haven't realized the vision yet where there's truly democratized access to education. Maybe you have a different view.
I think
Like what else do we need to do to get there?
education has been democratized so strongly over the last many hundreds of years, in the last few years. For example, Google has made knowledge accessible to everybody globally. And not everybody can have a smartphone, but pretty much everybody does have a smartphone. So everybody has now Google, the world's knowledge base in their pocket. Today, online courses are basically free. So if you have an online connection, you can teach yourself whatever skill you want. You can do this. So saying education is not democratized, I think we are democratizing education
Okay.
at global scale.
Can you talk through any of your failures and how that affected your next steps? Because we could look from the outside and be like, this is one successful guy. Wow,
Well,
so
how much time do you have? Let me talk about Google Glass. Google Glass, initially we had this idea of putting a computer in your brain. And I studied this from the GoogleX perspective. Is this feasible to, and then it felt unfeasible to go to surgery just to get the latest version of your consumer product.
remind me when in time this was?
This is roughly 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And then we
15 years.
decided to put a computer right next to your eye. So it could speak in your ear, it sees what you see, it can listen to what you talk about and give you real-time information, like a real partner. This is this thing called augmented reality. What failed? We launched it too early. The software wasn't working, and that was my mistake. It crashed a lot. The use case was uncertain. We kind of marketed it as a fashion accessory. And back in the day, it was specifically popular among female people. When it was more like a geek type of professional thing, which was more like an outdoor sports thing, so we put in the wrong niche. And when the glass received this first negative press when people called it glass hole. That didn't feel good either. So in the end,
and that was a time when there were concerns about privacy in a way that we don't feel now. Like now it's kind of, you accept that you could be filmed at any moment on any number of devices. But I remember some of the pushback as well was that it felt a little bit creepy.
It was a bit creepy when used indoors, like go on a date with Google Glass and then I know your messages pop up and you look up. That was not the most romantic way to deal with people. I think the privacy thing people got wrong. Your voice is much more private than your picture. If you think about it, your picture is roughly the same every single time, but what you say has a lot of confidential information. So a phone that can record your voice, which every phone can do all the time, is much more an intrusion than a camera on your face. But you know what? People saw that differently.
So the theme of this series of conversations centers around this question of whether we're living through exceptional times. And I would love to hear whether you want to just look at a trajectory of 30 years of robotics or your broader field of study or just your existence as a human on the planet. Does now feel special to you?
So we live in a singularity. We're in the middle of a singularity. Let me explain what this means. If you go back to the beginning of Homo sapiens sapiens, 300,000 years, give or take, you find that invention came by thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, and now inventions come by the minute. Almost anything that you care about physically, from your car, your cell phone, even like abstract things like surgery, modern surgery, anesthesia, or nitrogen fertilization in agriculture, they are all less than 150 years old. So in the last 150 years, invention exploded, okay, on anything we build. That explosion is now getting steeper and faster. With advent of artificial intelligence, we can now make discoveries in minutes that would take many, many years before. Personally, I used to be able, when I was a student, to predict the next 7 years. That felt right in computer science. In 7 years' time, things turn over. Now I cannot even predict the next 7 months. I don't know what's going to happen next year. We're going to invent something next year that I won't see today. There'll be a twist of society that I won't see coming. That to me is the definition of a singularity. It means a digital explosion. And what is good for us, because now we live in a world suddenly where we have more food than we can eat, where obesity is a bigger problem than malnutrition. First time in history. Where extreme poverty is disappearing, where we're truly democratizing absolutely everything in a way never seen before. We now work half as much as our grandparents. We have vacation, we have weekends, we have childhood. Things all didn't exist 150 years ago. So we now live in a world where I think if we do well with distribution, we can make the world amazing for every human being.
Distribution, you mean access to all of these technologies?
Yeah, so access to basic goods, to food, to shelter, and education, these things. But even on those dimensions, we've gotten better, actually. In terms of education, we now have a much broader base. You can be in Northern Africa and learn the same computer skills as you learn in Stanford.
So you brought up the future, and I wanted to ask, how do you thinking about the future?
Well, at GoogleX, at Stanford, what we really do is constantly think about the future from first principles. So we really ask the question, what's the correct solution? For example, when we invented self-driving cars at Google, Waymo, it was pretty clear to us that putting a machine behind the steering wheel will be much safer than human drivers, and also much cheaper than human drivers when it comes to transportation services like ride sharing. No one else saw this. Right?
Yeah.
Similar to Elon Musk, who saw the electrification of vehicles as a no-brainer when nobody else saw it. When you ask today, what do we see? We see that most diseases that kill people like cancer will be eradicated within one generation. There's no question in my mind.
Okay, so you do see radical change to...
Yes, I'm absolutely convinced that the future of urban transportation is flight and not ground-based like cars. I see that manufacturing will come back to the US in a completely different form than in the past. It'll be in your basement. You're going to have a machine in your basement that costs less than $2,000. They can make anything you want for you at this moment.
This was kind of the promise of 3D printing that we haven't seen.
That's happening today. So there's massive advances in 3D printing, and you don't see it quite yet. But the 3D printing industry is where the PC industry was in the early 80s, when a small number of people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates found their way to Stanford and talked about computers and no one else saw it. But they saw the truth. And 20 years later, it happened massively. The same is true for manufacturing. There is no need anymore, at least from a logical perspective, to have a big factory.
Yeah. Where is your attention right now? I see a through line with robotics and autonomous travel, but a lot of other interests. Like what
Well, I'm
what takes your attention?
I'm an AI junkie. I do a lot of work right now on AI and video content. I believe that video should be a dominant way for people to exchange experiences. The same way text has been for a long time, and maybe photos.
Like real time, asynchronous, whatever?
Yeah, we're doing a little startup in that space right now.
Okay.
And then anything robotic. I mean, in terms of warehousing, manufacturing, delivery, transportation, military. There's so many advances right now. We now live in a world where our devices become intelligent. Where all of a sudden we have intelligence in physical hardware, like a self-driving car. We have soon humanoid robots, physical intelligence in your kitchen, in your restaurant. The toasters around you will have intelligence. That fusion of intelligence with machines will be so transformational. I really deeply believe in it. Something that most people haven't seen is, if you check out the most recent humanoid robots, they are darn close to people. And why it doesn't matter. I mean, you could argue people are cheap. And they're what, in China, $2 an hour, in the United States, maybe $15 an hour. But experts, machinists, specialists, factory workers, and so on, we can relatively quickly replace people with machines that are cheaper. They do the same task with the same machinery. And that's going to be the first waves in factories with robotics. That we now go and build humanoid type robots. Maybe they have wheels or legs, I don't know, that do these tasks. But then, of course, the most foundational transformation will be that we change the tasks themselves. Like, why do all the cars look alike? Why can't I have a car tailor-made for Sebastian, who has that many kids and that many cup holders and likes these colors? Today's machines are very repeatable machines, and they have a specific way of bending materials. But let's say we go into a 3D printing world, and your home 3D printer is going to become your home robot that makes stuff for you. It could make your food, it could make your clothing, it could make your car. That's going to happen very soon.
And how about in the healthcare arena?
Yes, so robotics has two sides to it. There's the perception side and the action side. Perception means the computer sees something and perceives it and makes a determination. And action means you physically move something in the physical world. The first part is now massively changing medicine today. Diagnostics. If you have a radiologist, effectively a robot can analyze your X-ray scan, your chest scan, better than a human can. You can now find tumors in a size smaller than the human eye could even see in MRIs and other diagnostic tools. It's mind-blowing how machines help now. We had a project at Stanford. We looked into skin cancer and found that an iPhone with artificial intelligence can see a cancer, diagnose a cancer more accurately than the best human physicians.
Wow.
So that field is moving fast. And the vision is, of course, to shift diagnostics away from the doctor's office to your home. So if you shift this, you go to your doctor's office when you have pain, right? And yeah, if you break your leg, you have pain, you go there, it's obvious. But if you have a cancer, you have no pain for a long time to come. And when the pain finally arrives, it's often late, right? So if you can somehow do the diagnostics of cancer at home on a daily basis, then you could find cancer when it's very small. The same is true for heart diseases and strokes and so on. And that's going to happen next decades.
If we wiped the slate clean for you and your knowledge base, where would you start tomorrow?
I'm so intrigued with the unlimited potential of AI, because it fuses human knowledge with machine knowledge in a way never happened before. In my own work, when I go back in the past, Waymo was my very first attempt where we trained the car to learn from human drivers. And we were able to distill human intelligence back into machine intelligence, with the added benefit that we can copy the machine over to machine. So if one self-driving car made a mistake and learned something, we could copy the knowledge into all self-driving cars.
And they all know.
Yeah, they all know immediately, including the future. That's now happening at all levels of human wisdom. So we can take any amount of human knowledge and skill and make it replicable at scale. So if you have an invention, a new way to think, a new way to write, somewhere at the New York Stock Exchange, we can take this piece of information and make it globally available to everybody in the world instantaneously. That's like the printing press now, 10 gazillion times faster.
I'm hearing from you that one of the things that's exceptional about right now is the speed at which things are happening.
Yes.
Like that's a qualitative
And that's
shift.
all there is to it.
Okay.
Like an exponential curve, right? An exponential curve. When you get into the steep part, is kind of amazing.
And then it's just like wacky, like we don't know where we're headed. We're headed somewhere nuts.
Yes, and that's why I think it's hard to predict, because
Yeah.
just look at the last 20 years or 10 years what we invented. AI, social networks, massive progress in medicine, massive progress in transportation now.
Are there any things outside of the tech innovation that you would look at as tectonic or like waves underneath all of this stuff that you think could really shift things?
I think when people ask me what was the most important historical invention ever, I would always say the printing press. And the reason is the printing press was a very slow version of what we're seeing today. The ability to document digitally information and distribute it economically. Digital scripture existed before, but it made it more economical. And from that simple innovation, lots of stuff arose, like enlightenment, scientific revolution. I would say modern democracies are the direct result of the printing press, and the empowerment of the people. Global truth, which is now under attack, obviously, recently with the acceleration of social media and so on. So to me, these communication elements have always led to profound impacts. In terms of decline, I think with AI, deep fakes, and social networks, we're going to enter a period of uncertainty where we don't quite know what's true anymore. That worries me. I think we have to figure that out now that we can make 100 billion times as many pieces of information as you could do 10 years ago.
If you could situate yourself anywhere in time, past or present, that's not right now, would it be printing press?
To the future. Like
Future?
I feel my biggest misery is I was born 30 years too early.
What wisdom do you want to impart? What recommendations for anyone watching this?
I would say look at history, and I often quote 150 years, 200 years, 300 years, 500 years. We all lived in slavery effectively. We all were extreme poverty, and look at what happened as a way to be more optimistic and have the faith that humanity will be good. In the end of the day, we invented many things. And yes, things get misused, but every person I know in every culture and every religion, every ethnicity wants the same things. They want safety, they want opportunity, and they want better life for their children. It's true for me and everybody else. And as long as this unites us, I think we're going to get rid of wars. We're going to get rid of abuse. We're going to leverage these technologies for the better and not for the worse. So if you take that perspective, be part of the tsunami, be part of the train, help us invent, help us realize, help us promote. Stop worrying so much. Don't be negative.
I love that. Sebastian, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.